Well, hello, this is Peter Combs from Bitamount.com and P.O. Combs Asian Art in Gloucester, Massachusetts, and today is Friday, July 12th, 2019, and this is our weekly video, a look back at last week's eBay auction results, see how things did over on Catawki, which, just so you know, we've expanded the Catawki page off the home page and off the newsletter page and changed the way it's laid out because they've gotten a lot more stuff in than they've had in the past. Some pretty interesting things. And if you haven't got an account with Catawki yet, there's a link off the page. You can go get one. And I think it's time. If you haven't, you should. If you buy on eBay, there's no reason you shouldn't buy on Catawki unless you live in an area they currently don't ship to, which they are working on. And one of the things I wanted to bring up this morning was that a number of people have used the ID Assistant program and used the auction preview thing and the eBay thing have asked me, more than a few people have asked me, how come I never talk about some of the fakes that are bringing, starting to bring money on eBay, pieces that are actively being bid on that close in the next few days, and maybe warn people about them to help them save them a few bucks. So I think that's what we may do that periodically. We lined up some pieces today that are for sale on eBay right now. One of them has a bid of $2,500 on it, and it's a total fake, and we're going to get to those. We've got about a half a dozen things to go through. These are things that are actively being bid on, that are getting attention and shouldn't be. These are copies. And we're going to start with this. This is a blue and white Ming-style jar. It is problematic for an awful lot of reasons, not the least of which is this profusion of overly neatly drawn out grids of Shao characters and all these symbols that do appear on authentic ones. This is a copy, okay? And if you got it on your watch list, take it off your watch list. It is marked on the bottom China. Somebody put that on there, but the bottom of that jar is not old. It is not a Republic piece. They've dabbled this on here to look like it came out of an old collection, and they've included a deaccession number and all this. Don't buy any of it. This pot is brand new and is a total fake. All right, so let's just take that off. It's up to $2,500. Antique guarantee $988. Whoever they are, they don't know what they're doing, but they're selling it as a Ming Dynasty Chinese large blue jar. It is not Ming. It is brand new. All right, and then next is this. This is a Chinese export style jar that you've all seen before. It has the famous British hunting scene on it. It's up to several $100s. If you have a bid on it, take it off. This is a fake. Take it off your watch list. They started making these fairly clever copies during the 1980s and into the 90s, and they've gotten better at them since. It has some of the irregularities of the old ones. It has a decent painting on it, but when you look at the bottom and you see that gunked up foot squared off, if you don't know anything else about it, just know that this is the foot of a fake. All right, and they've even worn some of the gilding away. You notice here they've gone to considerable lengths to age this thing. Be very careful. This is not old at all. It is less than 30 years old. All right, and it is up to $314. It's got a couple. It ends tomorrow. It is a total copy, and you don't want it. All right, and then on to this, the bronze. This is a copy, obviously, of a Ming Bronze. If you look at the face, the casting, the glossiness of it, it's lacking any authentic patina. They've sort of banged it around a little bit to give it some appearance of age, but notice the embedation of dirt that just is so perfectly done everywhere, all through here, the low areas and all that. That's all applied. And don't get stuck with this. This is the bottom of it. These are cast, in sort of the old way, but they're just not. They just don't have any age to it. To these, that's all. All right. This is Mr. Xi's collection. He sells a lot of very questionable things. It's up to $152. It ends in a week. If you have it on your watch list, take it off your watch list. If you got a bid on it, retract your bid. All right, and then on to this, the Ming Dynasty, I think this is also Mr. Xi, Ming Dynasty style jar. It's fairly convincing looking. It's got some decent drawing. The drawing of the dragon is not that really of a Ming Dynasty dragon. The jaw is clamped shut, It just doesn't have the look to it. But the enamels and decoration are just not right. Here's a picture of the bottom of it. The foot rim is not right. The enamels are decently colored, but the style of the painting isn't good. All right, and here's a picture of the bottom, that very modern-looking foot running around it. No indications of hand trimming or anything like that. And the mark is rather unevenly placed. It's up to $300 also. It has 18 bids, which means it's probably got a lot of interest. And again, if you've got it on a watch list, remove it. And then on to this. These have been turning up everywhere. These transitional style sleeve vases with brown dressing on them. Some are better than others. These were never common, and yet they seem to turn up in every auction you go to. Here's a picture of the bottom of it. That muddy looking bottom is not the kind of base you should see on one of these. You can go around the web and find real ones and compare them. The decoration on it, the blue is the wrong color, the drawing is rather poor, and so forth. But if you haven't seen a lot of them, it can trick you. All right, and you don't want to get tricked by this. This is the interior, glossy, shiny, straight from the kiln. Okay, and here you can see they've even taken to adding the brown dressing on the rim. But this is not an authentic piece. There's a lot wrong with it. And this is a seller named Bonnie C. 2014. She has it listed as an early 17th century vase. She even has a reserve on it. So maybe she doesn't really know it's a total fake. Give her the benefit of the doubt. She only has 4 feedbacks. But at any rate, you don't want that. And then this, you have the Wuhai style jar, late Ming transitional type of jar with the kit on it. It's brand new. Here's the thing, the top of it. All right. Somebody they noticed this, that they're putting made, China is getting stamped onto pieces, because typically in the old days, years ago, when you saw China, you knew that it was probably exported from China around 1890 to 1920. That's when they put these on. They're now reintroducing these onto brand new pieces and marking them China. All right, it's one of the new ways they can deceive you. The bottom has been shipped out to make it look like it was once upon a time a lamp, and so forth. It is not. This is a new piece. It's got one bid. It's up to $199. All right, and then on to no, that one went by. And that was it. Okay, I think those are the things for the week. But you've got to be very careful. If you see a very high priced thing and it has one bid and it opened at $3,000, be very suspicious. Sellers will sometimes, that are not honest, will put a bid on it to get it started, to get attention, to build confidence. And once there's a bunch of bids on there, it'll eclipse theirs, and it's not a problem. But that kind of shill bidding does happen, unfortunately. What happens at the end is, if there's absolutely no other bids, they arrange to get that bid retracted. The item goes through as unsold, and all they end up paying is the eBay commission. If it sells for that one bid of $2,500, the seller's going to get hit for a $250 commission, for example, in the case of that big Ming jar at the beginning. So the trick is they just remove the bid, and it closes at 0, and that's the end of it. All right, but be very careful. All right, now on to things that did sell. This was something from Clay and Brush, and I think this was a great buy. This was a nice late 18th, maybe early 19th century Beijing enamel stepped piece. It almost looks like a one of those butter burners, incense, butter lamps. It's not, but somewhat on the style of it. It has this nice lid on it, and had a very nice lotus finial. Here's a picture of the bottom. Nice old bottom on it. These enamels are always sort of knocked around a little bit, but this was a pretty one. And it was a rather unusual form, and that may have kept it from going up very high. It went for $209, which I think was a very reasonable price for one of these. Beijing enamels outside of typical forms like bowls and dishes are rather interesting and more heavily collected. And this one with the flaming mandala of the Buddhist mandala and so forth is a rather nice pattern. And I think the buyer got a fabulous buy out of it. Really do. And then on to this was that nice Kangxi, very unusual form teapot. And I had this on the newsletter. It wasn't perfect, but it was a rare form. It had some sort of a break. Something happened around here at one point. But the form of the thing, if you like unusual examples, this was a rather nice one. Nice and unusual form, nice decoration, and it was just sort of quirky. I like that. And it went all right. It did okay for a piece that's been repaired. About $327, but an unusual form. And I'd rather, a lot of times I'd rather have an unusual form than have a standard form that's perfect. I'd rather have a really unusual form that's maybe not perfect, but more interesting. If you're really a collector, I think that's what you should gravitate to. All right. And then on to this, the pair of Chinese silver wine cups or stem cups. These were very pretty, and they had these rococo cartouches in the center, and then filled with very Chinese-looking flowers, nicely polished, beautiful condition silver with beadwork. And I think these were a perfectly good buy. These came from Super Shrink, who's a seller here. Used to be in Massachusetts. Now they're down in North Carolina. But they get great things. They know a lot about silver of all kinds, not just Chinese silver, but European silver, French silver, American silver. And it's a nice thing. And they sold for $535. Not bad. And then on to this. This was that very unusually decorated 18th or early 19th century tray. I thought this was fabulous, and I love the pattern on it. And if you're looking at the pattern and wondering where you've seen it before, and it looks familiar, all right, here it is. It's the type of rim they put often on Kangxi Monteith bowls. This is one from the Jerry Tang collection that we had talked about a number of times, and they had this in this bowl in there, a beautiful example. And the tray is basically a flattened out version of this pattern. All right, there it is, and you see it coming in this way. So it goes from being a three-dimensional into a sort of a two-dimensional object, but it's very cleverly done. And I think this was an outstanding buy. I think whoever got this got themselves a gem. I really think this is the drawing. It's very symmetrical. The colors are good. It's good size. It was about a foot in diameter. Nice piece. And it ended up selling for just $354, which I think was a steal. I think this was the absolute steal of the week. I think this should have brought at least $1,200 to $1,800. I thought it was wonderful. And whoever got it, good going. This is a nice thing. And if you haven't seen one before, don't be surprised, because I've seen things similar, but I've never seen one this clean. Really well done. Nice piece. And then on to this, the banner. For those of you who like to collect textiles, this is a nice early dragon banner, probably 18th century, late 18th, early 19th century. And here it is. It had some losses and so forth, but these were banners. These were flown. This one I actually saw, was used, and the needlework on it is very good. It's got that cream sort of raw silk ground, but beautiful needlework depicting the four-clawed dragon. All right, the Prince's dragon, I believe that is, and then it has bats and auspicious things going up around the outer banner. So forth, and it went for $610. But to a collector of flags, this was a nice one. This was a good one. In perfect condition, this thing would have brought a lot more. It would have brought probably $3,000 to $4,000. It was a little rough, but rare, and you don't see these very often on eBay or anywhere. They don't turn up because they got wrecked and thrown away. They were used outside and flown. All right, and then on to this, that nifty Kangxi dish with the vases and precious objects and the three-legged toad at the bottom. This was a very interesting plate. I liked it a lot. Or it's actually sort of like a shallow soup bowl, I guess. But nice thing, just a good-looking thing, very clean, very crisp. It went for $740, which was a pretty good price. This was only about an 8-inch plate, but nice pattern, good colors, well done all the way around. And then over here, this was sort of a good buy. If you like Chinese export porcelain of the 18th century and done somewhat in the English manner, the way they did English teapots, this was a good one. It had a little loss up here on the spout, but this kind of damage, those of you that see these, often these little tips of these spouts get damaged. A good restorer can fix those invisibly very easily because hardly anything is missing off the tip of that. It's just a little bit. It needs to be filled in and smoothed, and no harm, no foul, and you've got a nice looking pot on your hands. And here's the underside. It had a nick out of there and so forth, but good looking teapot all the way around. And look at this. It went for $122 for an 18th century teapot. That's a pretty good price. That's a great price to buy at. And this is a pattern that you will find in other shapes. This was not a stock pattern, but pretty close. And you will find very similar examples. So if you had this, you probably would with a little looking, find a creamer and some plates and things to go with it to make it match, or close enough. And then onto this bell-formed 18th century export China trade piece. Nice looking cup. These were made this is a very popular form. A lot of them turned up in Europe. Not so much in the United States, but a lot of them turned up in Europe. Years ago, my own mother had a dinner service of this stuff, the same pattern that came from an antique shop in Boston, but had originally belonged to a French family that came here. And it was nice. It was fun to eat off of. And beautifully done. Nice high-footed incense table, 18th century style table and all that. Very, very good Chinlung table with kids and so forth. And it did fine. It brought $240, but not an unreasonable buy. That was a perfectly good buy if you like really clean China trade material. Good thing. And then on to here was the dandy carved ivory calling card case from it was dated 1926, as I recall. Came with a letter, and you don't see them in documentation. Documented China trade things are always very interesting, always interesting. It makes them researchable. And it went for $522, which is perfectly fine. We've all seen them sell just the box without the letter sell for that much. So this was a really great thing if you're an antiquarian and you like the history. To get a document with it is fun. It's fun. You could frame it, put it together, do whatever you want with it. Nice thing. And then over here to the little Kangxi mantle vase, probably part of some sort of a garniture set with the lotus leaf pattern running around it, filled with flowers. It's a well-known pattern. This isn't some mystery, but the foot on this was great. This was a real classical, early 18th century foot rim that you'll see a lot. And when you get a chance to study foot rims like this to help you date things, it's always a good idea to spend some time on it. And here's another shot of it from here. Good looking work on it. Nice stepped down the way they did them sometimes with the tisma leaf in the center. And this did pretty well. It brought $614, which is right in the wheelhouse for these kinds of vases. Not an overpayment, not an underpayment. And then on to this. This was the dish that was put up. I think they put it up as Republican period. Of course, it isn't. It's a late Ming dish, Wen Li period, sort of a type of crackware with these green enamels and the iron red sort of pseudo seals running around it. And it's not perfect. It's not a fabulous example, but it's a perfectly good example. And if you're not in a position to spend, $1,500 or $2,000, there you go. $337. It was sold as a Chinese export large family Vare art pottery centerpiece bowl, vintage, which implies, of course, that it was 20th century. It wasn't. So somebody got, I think, a really nice buy for that. It was good size. It was about a foot in diameter, as I recall, or 13 inches. And then on to the dandy little silver box that came from our friend Steve up in New Hampshire. A nice stipple groundwork on it. I suspect my feeling is it was probably made in India. Beautiful quality, though. God, the silversmiths in India were just fantastic. And look at that, $259. What a great buy. That was a very good buy for someone. All right, $250 for that beautiful, all handwork box. Nice thing. And then on to this, the China trade. Somebody emailed me and said, why did I put that up? I don't usually put up furniture. What this is a rather nice first half of the 19th century China trade cage top. See the cage work underneath here, this thing here. Stand, sort of a Victorian base on it. This whole table is Chinese, and it was made to go with this box, that sewing box. And if you opened it up, the interior lacquer on this was very good. 1850. Here's the top of it. Had quite a bit of wear, but it was done in this relief work gilt with red, as you can see. And this thing obviously was used fairly often. It has the hairy paw foot on it. There's the table, and you can see the frame that was put on it to hold that box. So this was all part and parcel of the same thing. And there's the bottom. There's the cage work up here, and this nice turned standard. And here's the post that it all fit into. These things were disassemblable for moving. And it did very well. It brought $3,850, but it was a nice China trade example, and they're unusual. They don't turn up very often anymore because the tables have long been broken and lost and separated, and the tea caddy or the sewing box has gone somewhere else. But here it is all together. All right, this was a seller in Redding, California. Found this nice thing, and the shipping on it wasn't bad. I remember looking at the shipping on that table. It was about $80 to ship it to here from California, which I'm in New England, so it's clear across the country. Not bad. And then on to this, the Kangxi Femi-Vert bowl. I think this was a nice buy. Overglazed blue enamels, nice red, nice greens, well outlined. It had, I think, a hairline, but that was about it. There's the bottom of it. All right, very typical Kangxi piece. Here's another one of it. It was just a little under 8 inches in diameter. Rather nice bowl. And look at this. It went for $260. The description was a little bit muddied up, and as we talked about on the video about Cassini, he wasted an awful lot of space in his title with all this extra stuff that's not searchable, and he shouldn't have done that. He should have taken out all this junk, because the only thing that's searchable out here is Kangxi Femi-Vert bowl, and if you don't put those exact things in, not a lot of people are going to get to see this. So you want to remember the rules on that when you're writing your listings. Okay. And then over here, I just thought I'd share how this did. This was that nifty carved Chinese coconut that had been changed probably in England into a calling card case. Here's another shot of it, and this is the one, if you remember, on the top of it. Where's the top of it? There it is. Not at home. Built into there. And this might have been made for somebody living in Asia, too. And the idea was you'd have this on your porch or by your front door, and if somebody came by and you weren't at home, they'd simply leave their calling card inside of it. And it was a nice footed piece. I like the ball foot that was been added onto it and the little handle. And it went for $369, which is about what the other coconut piece went for a week or so ago. I thought this was a better one. And I think this was a very, very nice buy, frankly. It was a nice thing, nifty thing. And then over here we had the bottle vase at Catawki. This was that nice-looking Kangxi period bottle vase, about 8 inches tall, but good color, good quality decoration. And in the end, it brought $1,364. It was a perfectly reasonable buy for that. Could have easily brought $2,000. That was a nice thing. And then you had the charger, the 18th century charger. Very nice, very cleanly drawn. It was about 13 or 14 or so inches in diameter. And in the end, it brought $511, which is a perfectly reasonable price for one of these. Like I said, Catawaki's been getting more and more stuff, and you want to check it out, because they're getting some pretty good things. And we were talking with them this week, and we might be doing a bit more with them, as well as doing things with eBay. Alrighty. And we're having a little bit of trouble this week with the updating the newsletter page. It's some technical stuff. So you may see a bit more Catawki stuff on there this week than you do with eBay. We're trying to resolve it, but it's Friday and we don't have a lot of time left, and it's been an issue with eBay now for the last 4 days. So we're trying to work that out. Okay, just so you know. And now we're going to take a look over here. This was that rather interesting sort of Kanjanware vase that closes tomorrow on Saturday. If you like these pieces, this is a really unusual vase. Particularly like it. And there'll be other stuff on there, but we don't know what it is yet because of the technical problem we're having with eBay in linking the sites together. So once we get that resolved, we'll be in touch and we'll take care of it. All right. Have a great weekend. That's the end of the video for this week. And get out there, enjoy the summer, and I hope you find something. Get into some shops maybe this weekend and do some hunting. And we'll see you all next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.